Hello. I have been greatly challenged these last few weeks, and I have struggled like hell. One thing that happened to me is a couple of nights ago. I was doing some very difficult and excruciatingly painful work on my psyche. Truly painful. Truly dreadful. And I decided to take a break, and I put on an old movie, Henry V, with Kenneth Branagh. And in the opening scene, he stands up and declares all sorts of violent war towards France. And the darkness in me immediately jumped up and started beating its chest in response to Kenneth Branagh. And it was painful. I switched it off, And it seemed very clear to me that, this world and the media of this world is stimulating all sorts of violent darkness inside me all the time. And there is barely a safe place to rest one's eyes. And it stirs things up inside of you continuously. How are you ever going to be conscious in this world? That was just one example that was exacerbated by the work that I had done on myself. But the kind of rousing speech that Henry V gives is exactly what people like to watch on the news. For instance, Boris Johnson, I saw him holding some kind of machine gun, supporting the army with his delusion in the last week of his office before he's replaced. He's a fat old buffoon with some sort of patriotism. But he'd never be able to fight a war himself. He wants other people to fight for him, for his image. He would be useless in an army. He would be useless in a fight. He can't stand up to anything. He's not in shape. He doesn't know a damn thing about soldiering or about being a man or about standing up for anything. So it's all just illusions. And, if you look across society, it's all just conflict and pride and haughtiness and grandstanding. And that's the whole thing. Every movie, there's more fantasies. It's just one fantasy after another, My teacher says that the unconscious humanity has nothing to offer you except its unconsciousness. So as soon as you open your account, as soon as somebody opens their mouth in front of you, what pours out? Only their unconsciousness. And I guess that's what a spiritual teacher has to deal with. They have to receive the unconsciousness and try to help that being who may be tethered on the inside to it. But I got the sense that, if I wanted to help myself, I can no longer open myself to the darkness, which is basically speaking to anybody. It's funny because, you're not meant to discuss religion or politics in polite company, and so people protect themselves by staying on the surface and never talking about anything real. I'll just make this quick point. I was reading. I've been interesting myself in vibrations, becoming vibrations, and manifesting vibrations. It's something that you do naturally in Qigong. If you do 5-element Qigong, you will soon notice that there's a difference between the color blue, the color green, red, yellow, and white, which are the 5 elements. So the various arts that exist, whether it's painting or qigong or formal meditation, they exist, and I commend them to you, because otherwise nothing's going to happen. And I would suggest to you that this world is really painful, and that you should hurry to make something happen. And if you know what's good for you, shorten your journey by any means. Invest all your every ounce of spare energy into shortening your journey through rapid penetration. In the Bible, Jesus talks about the Lord of the world. And last time I spoke, I talked about the creation of a relative space-time that we exist in. It's a world that has some characteristics of a conscious world, but it is not conscious. And I can tell you, it's not easy to maintain this world. Whoever it is that is controlling this world is having a really, really tough time, because they're trying to maintain qualities of a higher ilk in this kind of intermediary world. And they have to deal with all the insanity that human beings are spewing every day. And yet that creature, or that intelligence that is maintaining this world, is trying desperately to kind of hold this middle place, so that creatures here can have a taste of something higher. Very, very difficult. And that's why you have to respect this world and its rules and its laws. And that's also why you should not disturb the soil. In other words, you should not disturb the ordinary people. They have their joys and pains and their ways, and there is some wisdom in it. They are harmonized with currents in this world, and you should not try to damage them or interfere with them. For instance, if you have some ability inside you to break rules, do not encourage other people to break rules. Break them in your own time and for your own reasons, and be very careful. The way to break rules is to break them upwards, not downwards. Any idiot can break rules downwards. And you see around you this degeneration in the Western world. All kinds of fools feel like they no longer have to adhere to the pillars of the Western world that created the entire comfortable environment here. But the correct way is to break them upwards, and to hold the fort, to maintain the structure as it is, and only increase from the foundations that exist. That is the way of a real man. It sort of dawned on me after I was watching Henry V how it just means nothing, because everybody's just being pumped up and pumped down and triggered and so on by the media. And then the other question is, the other point I wanted to make was that should you be angry? And the answer is, of course you should be angry. Everything around you is so anger making. You should be very angry. And if you're not, you're dead. But of course, anger is depleting. So then you have to move on to how to respond to this world. And you have to respond to this world by saying that the nature of the world is dark, and I have to move on from here. This last week, a lot of things have changed inside me, and I start getting very strange looks and strange meetings in the street, and it's like the Lord of the world is inspecting me. But as I have said, I am no threat to him, since I respect this plane, though I am leaving. the outside world is a place where we're stimulated to respond. And as we respond, that's action. If we were then to settle down and learn about ourselves, quietly settling down and inspecting and mulling over our action, then we would get the best out of this world, because the world would have stimulated us to do something and we responded. But then, settling down, we absorbed or reabsorbed our response, and then we would have had a full meal. Do you see? It's like the world calls on us and we act, but then afterwards we rest and absorb the nourishment of the event. Otherwise, you were just triggered again and again and again and again and again and again, and you never learn anything. And that is suffering. That is suffering. And once again, that the abhorrence of the material world comes from the incorrect interaction with it. If you could learn from the material world, then you would ascend and ascend and ascend, and you would not hate it. But if you do not, then you are like Sisyphus. Exactly what do I mean by reabsorbing? Well, you'll have to learn about that, and you have to get used to just trying things, to sitting quietly and feeling things and trying to grow, not just reacting, but for something to change inside of you and something to be learnt, something to settle home. You cannot keep asking questions about how, because learning what it means inside is the journey. You have to own the tools. Mira says, I have found, yes, I have found the wealth of the divine name's gem. My true Guru gave me a priceless thing. With his grace I accepted it. I found the capital of my several births. I have lost the whole rest of the world. No one can spend it. No one can steal it. Day by day it increases 1.25 times. On the boat of truth, the boatman was my true Guru. I came across the ocean of existence. Mira's Lord is the mountain holder, the suave lover, of whom I merrily, merrily sing. I have found.